Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about yapf. Yapf is a Python formatter. In fact, it stands for yet another Python formatter, and it's used for things that a linter wouldn't really catch, but that are important still. For example, you've got here some code that I've written, and if you've been developing in Python for a while, you may see some things that are just a bit weird. For example, you've got a list here, this is fine, you've got two elements, and then you've got another element in a new line, which is maybe okay, and then you've got an element in a new line, but is less indented than the previous element. You've got a for loop here that has a colon this time, but then the body is on the same line. And this is okay in Python, it's just a bit strange. And then you've got a print statement that says we're done here, but it's using single quotation marks and it's escaping another single quotation mark inside it. It would probably be better to use double quotation marks here instead. But hey, this is fine. This is Python code that actually works. We can run it and run at py, and you can see that things get printed out. So this is all okay. The linter wouldn't necessarily complain, although it would complain about the missing doc string. They always complain about that. But what about the format, right? Well, the format is also important. You want all the code within a project to have consistent format. The reason for that is so that as you go from one file to another, it looks the same. You're not encountering any jarring experiences that are a bit strange. And also, so that everybody working on the project, if you're working with more people, has the same standards of what a good style is, or what the style for the project is. That way, you're not going to sort of go from one file to another and be able to know who wrote it just from what the code looks like. Everybody should have a consistent style so that the code base is the same for everyone. And it doesn't feel, some files don't feel wrong to some people. For that, you have the formatters. The formatters, you can sort of customize them and tell them what style you want, and then all you do is you run your files through the formatter, and it will change the files such that they are still valid Python code, but they sort of rearrange the elements around to match a style that everyone in your team likes. So, if we go back to the terminal, what you're going to do is, once again, you're going to do pip 3.6 or pip or pip3, depending on how many versions of Python you've got installed. Install yapf, yet another Python formatter. You're going to install that, and in my case, it's already installed, or possibly it was installed in a different Python version. And then all you have to do is run yapf and see if something happens. And what will happen normally with yapf is it'll just hang, which is not a very nice way of running a program. But because yapf needs a file to format, if you don't give it, I'm not really sure what it's doing, but it just seems to hang up. So if that happens, just press Control-C, and that'll terminate the program, and then you can run it again and give it the file that you want to format. And when you run that, it's going to give you the new file. So this is what the file should look like according to yapf. So you can see all the elements are in one line, and you've got a new line after the for loop. Notice that yapf has not changed the single quotation marks to double quotation marks, just because it's got an inner escaped quotation mark. So yapf hasn't really cared about that. And I can get behind that. I think this is okay. But there are other formatters that would change that. So if you like this, then you can just do yapf-help, and it'll tell you the different options you can give yapf. So you can use -h or --help to bring this help message up. -v or --version to see what version of yapf you've got. Then you've got -d or --diff. Either of these two options is valid to print out the difference between your local file and the file that yapf is creating. And you've got another one, recursive, in place, and so forth. And really the one we're interested in is the in place. This is going to make changes to the file. So if we do yapf-i app.py, nothing seems to happen, but when we go back to PyCharm, you can see that the file has changed. Now we've got everything in one line, and this is in two lines. If you do decide to use PyCharm, PyCharm comes with its own formatter. So if we do this, you'll see that PyCharm actually tells us that, you're doing something a bit weird here. PEP8, continuation line under-indented for visual indent. The fact that it says visual indent means that this isn't a required indent in Python. It's just a visual thing, and it tells you, according to PEP8, which is the sort of style guide for Python, this is a strange thing to do. And it also tells you here, PEP8, multiple statements in one line. So the for is one statement, the print is another statement, and it's telling you you shouldn't do this. And also, by the way, you can then put a semicolon and put more statements in there if you want, and it's going to tell you again, this is not something you want to do. This is not something a lot of people know about Python. You can use semicolons in Python as well, just like you can in Java and JavaScript, to separate multiple statements in one line, but it's a bit weird. What you can do in PyCharm, though, is you can select everything, and then you can go to code, and you can go to reformat code, and it'll format it if it can. So once again, that reformat code, and that'll do what it can. I'm not sure what auto indent lines is going to do. Nothing. So as you can see, it didn't quite fix this problem here. And that's because depending on the formatter, it will consider some things to be fixable. Sort of, if you do this, pretty much any formatter will tell you you're definitely doing something you don't want to do there. But if you do this, in some cases, you may want to do this. In this case, PyCharm's formatter doesn't change it for you. yapf does. So that's just a difference between formatters, and there are ways of customizing the formatters. yapf can be customized, and I'm not sure if PyCharm's probably can be customized too, actually, to make it change it if you want. We're not going to go into that in this course, though. That's for something for you to investigate if you want to customize it more to your needs. But of course, the little gray lines in PyCharm still tell you when you're doing something a bit strange, and in that case, you can just fix it manually if you want. So that's it. That's how you use the PyCharm formatter and also yapf. And I'm going to put another link to another formatter that is up and coming called Black, that is more strict, if you wish. It will change more things, but allegedly for a nicer end experience. So I'll put a link on that in the lecture so you can give it a go if you want. That's it for this video though. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.